All right, welcome to the player profile of how to be a top winger, which is a number 7 or 11, to be world class. So, wingers are very creative outlets for a team and are normally fantastic dribblers, which means they're normally going to be very good at 1v1 play, usually excellent at crossing, excellent at 1-2s, getting into the box, and scoring goals, right? Modern day wingers are fantastic at scoring goals. Old-fashioned wingers are more adept at staying on the line and putting balls in the box, which is still effective to a winger, but now you have to add that next element to be a world-class player. So somebody like Hazard, Mbappe stand out in terms of being fantastic wingers or a number 7 or 11. Okay, so top offensive qualities. First is confidence to attack the opposition defender in a 1v1. So can you go beat your direct opponent or whoever is marking you? Can you beat them 1 versus 1? Right, and on the next side would be once you beat a 1v1, what's next? Do you take the next player on? Do you go and combine with a teammate? Do you cross? Do you finish? Right, what's the next step? Movement on and off the ball with speed and purpose. Everything you do as a winger needs to be done fast, because you're going to get the ball a lot of times in a 1v1 scenario, or it's a counterattack and you have a lot of space, which means you now have an area to go attack quickly. Okay, willingness to make runs behind the opposing team's defensive line. You're willing to try and run behind opponents. I had a coach in college that said, essentially, as a forward, you're going to make 30 runs in the game and get the ball 1 time. What counts is that 1 time that you get the ball, what happens? Do you make it count or do you make a mistake? Because you're going to make 30 runs in a game. And how do you handle that? Right? Can you take advantage of the situation? You need the ability to deliver driven and lofted crosses with precision. Right? Can you hit the near post runner? Can you hit the far post runner? Can you hit the player on the top of the box? You have to have a willingness as well to get into the box and score goals. You have to want to score. Whether it's a combination play to break lines of pressure, whether it's getting on the end of a cross like Mohamed Salah or Mane, right? You have to want to do that. Usually top wingers will start in their position or stay in their position, and a lot of times it's hugging the touchline to stretch opposition defensive blocks, and then also know when to make runs inside. Now this varies depending on the coach and their philosophy, because for example, somebody or players at Man City, for example, the wingers are typically going to stay wider. So Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva if he plays there, Sané, they're going to stay wide typically and then make darting runs into the box later as the ball progresses. Now, Liverpool, for example, the wingers tuck in as more like forwards, which will allow the spaces for the fullbacks to bomb on into the wide positions. So a lot of it depends on the team. Okay, and then obviously have confidence to take shots in and around the box. Gotta score those chances. Okay, defensive qualities of a top winger. Understanding of defensive role when out of possession. Yes, as a winger, you're typically a forward, but for example, if you're playing a 4-3-3, a lot of teams will go and play a 4-5-1, which means the wingers tuck in deeper to help in the midfield, or maybe it switches to a 4-4-2, and one of you goes as a second forward, or the other one drops in as a midfielder. And it just depends on the team's dynamics and setup. Understanding of when to press and when to drop, right? Is it the moment to pressure, or do we need to drop the line of pressure? Ability to set traps to win the ball back. As a winger, it's your job, or one of your key roles is to try and set traps, right? To press the opponent to help your team win the ball back. A willingness to support the fullback behind you. Maybe your number 2 or number 3, whoever is behind you, is in need of help. You have to be willing and committed to come back to support them. Obviously, willingness to track runners. If you're a winger, your direct opponent a lot of times will be the opposing fullback. If they're bombing on all game, you need to be willing to track them and know where they are. And then capable of filling in for fullbacks who overlap you. So if you're playing as the number 7, which is the right-sided midfielder, and the fullback behind you overlaps, you might have to be the player that goes back to cover, depending on the situation. Okay, so those are things you have to be mindful of from a defensive standpoint. 3 world-class qualities. Number 1, confidence to beat any player 1 versus 1. Ability to deliver pinpoint crosses. Ability to create scoring chances out of nothing. And it can be, for example, going on a mazy dribble, beating 1, 2, 3 players to score. It could be beating one, playing a combination, getting it back, beating a third one, and then shooting and scoring. Right? That's creating something out of nothing. Okay, and the world's best players, Hazard, Mbappe, Gareth Bale, they can all do this, create something out of nothing. Okay, from a player analysis standpoint, I have Mbappe for you for an external reference for you to go watch on your own when he was playing for PSG. For example, you'll see where he'll start as in a wing position, but he'll make a lot of movement centrally, or he'll rotate with a player. So if he moves centrally, what will happen is somebody has to take his position. A lot of times it's a fullback, but sometimes you'll see, for example, the 9 slide out, or a central midfielder, depending on where the players are instructed to move. Okay, but I highly recommend you watch this video. I hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next one.